Justin Bieber walked onto Ellen's famous set not knowing he was about to deliver a moment so raw, so unexpected, it would leave millions of viewers breathless. The interview started like any other but ended as something no one saw coming, a television moment that redefined authenticity. The Warner Brothers lot in Burbank, California, hummed with its usual controlled chaos. Production assistants raced with clipboards, makeup artists made last-minute touch-ups, and audience members in their bright blue seats buzzed with excitement, phones ready. All were hoping to witness some light-hearted fun. None were prepared for what was about to unfold. Ellen DeGeneres moved through her pre-show ritual, reviewing questions, adjusting her signature blazer, practicing that familiar dance move that had become as much a part of her brand as the kindness she preached to millions. Her team had prepared the usual mix of playful questions, embarrassing throwback photos, and maybe a surprise scare for good measure. After all, Justin Bieber had been on the show countless times. He was practically family by now, at least that's what the introduction packages suggested. Backstage, Justin Bieber sat quietly scrolling through his phone, occasionally glancing up when someone entered the green room. At 28, he carried himself differently than the teen idol who had once been ambushed regularly on this very show for laughs. There was a stillness to him now, a thoughtfulness that hadn't been there before. 5 minutes, Justin, called a production assistant. He nodded, put his phone away, and took a deep breath, the way performers do before stepping into character, only today, something felt different. The show began with Ellen's monologue. Audience laughter right on cue, jokes about celebrity gossip, viral videos, the comfortable rhythm of daytime television. Then came the moment the audience had been waiting for. My next guest has been coming on this show since he was practically a child. He's sold millions of records and won countless awards, and he's here today to talk about his new music and his journey with mental health. Please welcome Justin Bieber. The audience erupted as Justin walked out, waving to the crowd, that famous smile in place, hugging Ellen with practiced ease before settling into the guest chair, casual in jeans and an oversized hoodie, his tattoos peeking out at the wrists. His posture was relaxed but alert, like someone who had learned the hard way to stay vigilant even in friendly territory. "Justin, so good to have you back," Ellen began with her characteristic warmth and energy. "It's been what, 2 years since you were last here?" "Something like that," he nodded. "A lot has happened since then." "That's right. New music. Your marriage is going strong. You've been open about your mental health journey, which is so important and brave." Justin nodded again, a slight smile. "Thanks. Yeah, it's been a journey for sure." Ellen leaned forward, switching to host mode. "So, let's talk about the new album first. I hear it's your most personal work yet?" They chatted about the music briefly, Justin answering thoughtfully but concisely, not quite giving Ellen the animated responses the show thrived on for clips and viral moments. There was a subtle shift in the dynamic, almost imperceptible, unless you'd watched their dozens of previous interactions. Ellen seemed to notice it too, her questions coming a bit faster, her smile a bit more pronounced, trying to recapture the playful energy that had defined their past segments. "So," she pivoted, displaying her well-known ability to change direction when needed, "I've got some throwback photos to show everyone." The screen behind them lit up with an image of 15-year-old Justin, hair swooped across his forehead, that iconic look that had launched 1,000 memes. "Oh man," Justin laughed, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "The hair. Always with the hair." The audience laughed appreciatively. Ellen clicked on another image, this one from a previous appearance on her show where she had scared him with someone jumping out of a table beside him. "You were so easy to scare back then," she teased. "Should we try again today?" Justin shook his head good-naturedly. "I've developed a pretty good radar for that stuff now." Something in his tone made Ellen pause, just for a millisecond, barely noticeable but enough to suggest a recalculation. "Well, we've watched you grow up right here on this stage," she continued. "From that first appearance when you were just a kid to now, married, established artist, it's been quite a journey to witness." Justin nodded, something shifting in his posture, a straightening of the shoulders, a focus in the eyes that hadn't been there moments before. "It has been a journey," he agreed. "Not always an easy one." Ellen sensed the opening for something more substantive. "You've been open about your struggles with fame at a young age, with mental health, which is so important for people to hear, especially your fans who might be going through similar things." Justin looked at her directly now, a steadiness in his gaze that felt different from the playful boy who had once been a show staple. That's the thing about struggles, though. They're only helpful to share if we're honest about what caused them. The subtle shift in the studio was palpable, a collective leaning forward. Ellen tilted her head slightly, a professional smile in place but a new alertness in her eyes. What do you mean by that? Justin took a breath, the kind that suggests someone is about to step off a high dive. I've been thinking a lot about my time in the spotlight, especially those early years, being 15, 16, and coming on shows like this. Ellen nodded encouragingly, though something flickered across her expression. You were here all the time. We love having you. And I appreciated the platform, Justin acknowledged. But, looking back now as an adult, I realize how much of that time was difficult. He shifted slightly in his chair. Did you know I used to be terrified before coming on talk shows? Like physically sick, anxiety through the roof. Ellen's expression showed surprise. I never knew that. You always seem to have fun. That's the thing about being in the public eye so young. You learn to seem fine even when you're not because the show must go on, right? The audience was completely silent now, the energy in the room transforming from entertainment to something more complicated. Ellen seemed to recognize the shift, but her decades of experience kept her composed. I'm sorry to hear that. We always wanted to make this a safe, fun space for you. Justin nodded, no hostility in his expression, just a calm certainty that hadn't been there before. I know that was the intention, but sometimes, even with good intentions, we can miss what someone else is experiencing. He glanced out at the audience briefly. One thing therapy has taught me is that it's important to name your experiences, not to blame anyone, but just to acknowledge what was real. Ellen nodded, professional but cautious. That's a healthy perspective. The truth is, Justin continued, his voice steady but vulnerable, a lot of those fun moments, the scares, the pranks, the jokes about my relationships when I was still a teenager, they felt like I was the punchline, not like I was in on the joke. A murmur rippled through the audience, not judgment, just recognition. Ellen's smile faltered slightly. That was never the intention, Justin. You know we all love you here. I believe that, he said sincerely. And that's actually why I wanted to come back today, not to call anyone out or create drama, but because I think this conversation matters. He leaned forward slightly. There's this culture in entertainment where we use people's discomfort for views, where boundaries get pushed for ratings, and when you're young, when you're grateful just to be included, you don't know how to say, this doesn't feel good to me. The studio was completely still now, cameras capturing the unscripted moment, producers in the control room exchanging glances. No one had prepared for this direction. Ellen, to her credit, didn't deflect. She took a moment, visibly processing. I appreciate you sharing that, truly. The last thing I'd ever want is for someone, especially someone I care about, to feel uncomfortable or like a punchline. Justin nodded. I know. And this isn't just about this show. It's the whole ecosystem of entertainment, especially for young performers. He gestured slightly with his hands. Think about what we normalize. Making teenagers field questions about their love lives on live TV, creating awkward moments because awkwardness gets views, pushing people's buttons because their reactions are authentic. Ellen listened, really listened, something shifting in her expression. When you put it that way, the thing is, Justin continued, I'm here today because I believe in the power of these conversations. I believe we can do entertainment that doesn't cost people their dignity, that doesn't treat vulnerability as a commodity. The audience began to applaud softly, a spontaneous recognition of something true being spoken. And honestly, Justin said once the applause quieted, that's what mental health is really about for me. Not just dealing with my struggles privately, but helping create a culture where we see each other as human, where we're aware of the impact we have. Ellen nodded, any remnant of her host persona falling away, replaced by something more genuine. I think a lot of us in this industry get caught up in what works, what gets ratings, what keeps the machine running, and maybe don't pause enough to consider the human cost. She looked at Justin with new eyes. Thank you for having the courage to come back and have this conversation. That couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, Justin admitted with a small smile, but the hardest conversations are usually the most important ones. The audience erupted into applause, not the prompted kind that punctuates talk shows, but a genuine response to witnessing something real, something that mattered. Ellen waited for the applause to settle. So, how do we do better? Not just this show, but the whole culture around celebrity, around entertainment. Justin considered this thoughtfully. I think it starts with remembering there's a person behind every performance, every interview, every viral moment. Someone with real feelings, real struggles, real dignity. He glanced around the studio. Entertainment doesn't have to exploit to engage. We can create content that uplifts rather than exposes, that connects rather than divides. He smiled, a genuine warmth replacing his earlier caution. And when we make mistakes, which everyone does, we can acknowledge them, learn from them, and do better. Ellen nodded, visibly moved. That's a message we could all use right now, not just in entertainment, but everywhere. She turned to the audience, then back to Justin. We need to take a break, but when we come back, more with Justin Bieber. As the cameras cut away, the studio remained silent for a moment, then erupted into conversation. Crew members exchanged glances, audience members leaned in discussing what they'd just witnessed, something unprecedented in daytime television. Not a confrontation or a dramatic moment designed for clips, but an honest conversation about the human cost of entertainment that treats people as content. In the control room, producers were already discussing how to handle this segment, knowing it would be everywhere within hours, analyzed and debated across platforms. One executive whispered to another, "This might be the most important segment we've ever aired." By the time the show finished taping, clips were already being prepared, but not the usual funny moments or celebrity games that typically drove traffic. Instead, this raw, unscripted exchange about boundaries, mental health, and human dignity. When the show aired, the reaction was immediate and powerful. Social media exploded with conversations, not about drama or controversy, but about something more profound. Just watched Justin Bieber speak his truth on Ellen with such maturity and compassion. No blame, just honesty. This is what growth looks like. As someone who works in entertainment, Bieber's words about dignity and boundaries hit hard. We can do better. The way Ellen listened instead of defending, the way Justin spoke the truth without attacking, this is the conversation we need to be having. In a dance studio in Atlanta, a teacher showed the clip to her young students with dreams of stardom. This is why boundaries matter, why your humanity matters more than your platform. In a therapy office in Portland, a psychologist referenced the exchange with a client struggling with people-pleasing. Even Justin Bieber had to learn that his comfort matters, that speaking his truth doesn't make him ungrateful. At a media ethics class at NYU, a professor played the segment and then asked her students, how might entertainment change if we prioritize the well-being of people over the pursuit of viral moments? The conversation expanded beyond celebrity culture, touching on workplace boundaries, social media pressure, the courage it takes to name difficult truths, and the growth that comes from hearing them. 3 days later, Ellen posted a thoughtful response online. Not defensive, not performative, just reflective about the evolution of entertainment, the responsibility that comes with the platform, and the ongoing work of growing and learning. My conversation with Justin Bieber reminded me that behind every show, every laugh, every moment, are real people with real feelings. As entertainers, we have a responsibility not just to amuse, but to care for those who trust us with their stories, their vulnerability, and their truth. I'm listening, I'm learning, and I'm grateful for the courage it takes to speak honestly. The post itself went viral, sparking a new wave of conversations about accountability, change, about what it means to use influence responsibly. Justin responded with a simple comment, "This is how we grow, together. Thank you for listening." What made the exchange so powerful wasn't drama or conflict. It was the rare sight of genuine human connection breaking through the polished surface of entertainment. It wasn't about villains or heroes, but about the complex reality of human relationships, about impact versus intention, about the courage to speak difficult truths and the grace to hear them. In Los Angeles, a young singer preparing for her first TV appearance watched the clip repeatedly, taking notes not just on what was said, but how it was said, with clarity, with compassion, with conviction. "That's how I want to navigate this industry," she told her manager, "with boundaries and authenticity from the start." In Chicago, a father showed it to his teenage son who was facing pressure at school to fit in at any cost. See, even Justin Bieber had to learn that his dignity matters more than being liked. In a corporate boardroom in New York, an executive referenced the exchange in a meeting about workplace culture. If daytime TV can have this conversation, surely we can talk about how we treat our people. And perhaps that was the true impact. Not just a viral moment or a celebrity headline, but a cultural conversation about how we treat each other, about the courage to name uncomfortable truths, about the possibility of growth and change. A week later, Justin performed on another show. When asked about the Ellen interview, he smiled that more centered smile that had replaced his earlier caution. It wasn't about any one show or person. It was about starting a conversation that I think we all need to have about seeing each other's humanity first. The host nodded thoughtfully. Has it changed how you approach these appearances now? It's changed everything, Justin acknowledged. Because now I know my voice matters not just when I'm singing, but when I'm speaking truth too. And maybe that was the lesson for everyone watching, that courage is contagious, that honesty, offered with compassion, can transform not just a talk show segment, but conversations everywhere. In homes across America, people who had watched the exchange found themselves speaking truths they had held back, setting boundaries they had feared would cost them relationships, and discovering that authenticity, offered with kindness, creates deeper connections than performance ever could. The original clip continued to circulate, not because algorithms pushed it, but because it offered something rare and valuable, a glimpse of what's possible when we speak honestly, when we listen openly, when we prioritize humanity over entertainment. And, in that way, what could have been just another celebrity talk show appearance became something more meaningful, a moment that reminded viewers that behind every public persona is a person deserving of dignity. The growth requires both courage and grace, and that sometimes the most powerful thing we can offer each other is the truth. If this story about authenticity and courage resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button right now to help others discover this powerful message. Drop a comment sharing a time when you spoke your truth or set a boundary that changed everything. Your story matters too. And if you believe in creating a more authentic world where dignity comes before entertainment, subscribe to join our community of truth tellers and boundary setters. Because in a world that often values performance over authenticity, these conversations aren't just important, they're essential. Subscribe now and be part of the change.